All right. It is a beautiful sound, and it is a beautiful sight to see you all here today, and to see all these beautiful colors. And I want to welcome. I've been seeing Debbie Williams is online with us, and Peggy White is online with us, and Linda Cannon. I don't know. There's a lot of great people who are watching with us online today as well. So welcome to those of you online and in here, and those of you who are here for the first time. Can you raise your hands? We just want to welcome you. We've got about six people. Thank you. And we have a little welcome packet at the end of this table out here. And so we want to make sure you have a chance to get one of those. And if you want to sign up and get connected with what we have going on here, you can fill out one of those interest cards. So we want to welcome you to our Easter service. I have a little joke for you today, a little Easter joke. Did you know that Easter is the only time that it's safe to take all of your eggs out of one basket? Drum roll, yes. So you could see from last week to this week how our sanctuary has been transformed, and our new screen. And so this whole thing about enlivening our space here and enlivening our lives through the meaning of transformation and growth and resurrection, it's a process that we all undergo. And in a practical application, it's a process that we did this, where we had to break everything down, create a little chaos first, right? Before we could put it together the way we envisioned it, So you get an idea for change, you prepare for change, and then you have to break things down or roll away the stone of anything that's in the way. And that can be uncomfortable at times, as you know. That waiting period in the tomb on Saturday, the unknown and the unseen future can be uncomfortable. But we want to look at the significance of that time, that rolling away of the stone and the resurrection. The resurrection follows, right? Rolling away the stone of those barriers that are between us and prevent us from experiencing the fullness of our divinity. Remember, as we look at the Easter story and other stories in the Bible, we look at them metaphysically here in Unity. We look beyond the physical, and we look at all the people and places as aspects of our own consciousness. And we can get a lot of growth from doing that. So we're going to look at this process. I'd like to start with a quote from Richard Rohr from his book. He's a Franciscan monk, and he wrote a book called The Universal Christ. And in this, he says, Jesus is a map for the time-bound and personal level of life, and Christ is the blueprint for all time and space and life itself. Both reveal the universal pattern of self-emptying and infilling, that's the Christ part, and death and resurrection, Jesus in our consciousness, which is the process that we have called holiness, salvation, or just growth at different times in history. So last week, we broke down the meaning of Jesus coming into Jerusalem and his experience in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he surrendered his personal will for the will of the divine. He aligned with the divine and submitted himself to carry out his purpose, in spite of feeling great sadness and sorrow about what was about to happen, his arrest and ultimate execution. There was that period in the tomb between death followed by resurrection, and now we're going to look at how that plays out in our growth and transformation. What is the significance that the stone was rolled away and his body wasn't there anymore? What represented his physical self? And he also rolled away the stone, had them roll away the stone to raise Lazarus from the dead as well. So there's a lot of significance with that. So we're going to break that down. And then we will have a little time where we can examine perhaps any stones that you may feel or sense that have been in your way, to roll them away and meditation and rise up into this new awareness of that inner Christ, into this new identity. It's not a new identity, it's actually what you already are. And we bring our awareness, we raise our awareness of that more and more. So, and Bishop John Shelby Spong, who is a Bible expert as well, has been, the local St. Paul's, right here in Richmond. Anyway, he has written a number of books talking about the Bible and its meaning. And what he says is that every story in the Bible is true without it being literal. And we can look at it that way, that we can look at every story as true without it being literal, because if we look at it metaphysically, that's what we do. So each part of this story is a character or a self, part of ourself, an aspect of our consciousness. Now, Charles Fillmore, our Unity co-founder, has talked about the 3 phases of transformation. Now, there are 3 phases of transformation, and they are preparation for the change, the birthing of something new, and 3 is the assimilation or integration of the teachings. Once we awaken in consciousness, it takes time to assimilate that learning. So that's what happens after we let go. The crucifixion represents, Barbara already said in our opening prayer, crossing out the error of our thinking, of our thoughts. Okay. The tomb in the story is that the resting place or space after the stones or errors of thought are rolled away and are waiting to be filled with the light of new understanding. The resurrection is that restoration, that new understanding, and that unification with your true identity, your true self. Now, in order for us to shift, we have to roll the stone away. We have to do that release work. And when that stone is rolled away, there's light that enters in. Now, one of the areas we might get into trouble is if we're trying to roll someone else's stone away for them. Anybody relate to that? So, so the light enters, and once that enters, we've awakened to that eternal truth. We still may mess up, slip up at times, but we can't go back to sleep. Once we've awakened, we can't go back to ignorance. We have to assimilate. There's an assimilation time for that new consciousness. Charles Fillmore, again, our co-founder, said, "You are passing through a transforming process that will be followed by a resurrection of things that are worth saving, of all that is worth saving. You are passing through a transformation process that will be followed by a resurrection of all that is worth saving." That's what we need to remember when we're in the tomb, which is also the womb of our rebirth. So whenever you embark on a change, there's a period that prepares you for this new life. In order for that new life to unfold, that process of rolling away, which are of the stones, is like looking at what are our resentments, What are the things we have not yet forgiven? What are our self-doubt, our fears, all the things that keep us in that lower consciousness and in fear. Now, when Jesus was walking and talking and preaching, many thought he was an imposter. He was an imposter. And others thought he was the real deal, and they were afraid that he was going to take over and replace them in power, literally in political power. So it was a difficult walk for him. And so how does this play out in our consciousness? Do we not have imposter thoughts? Yeah, that attack ourselves or attack other people, attack others. And then also, when we experience some measure of a miracle or freedom and success, then we have imposter syndrome. Well, who am I to think? Who do I think I am? So in Jesus' consciousness, we are partnered with Spirit. And that allows miracles to unfold in your life. Jesus, the man, shined a light to the darkness of his time. Your holy self shines the light of truth in you. When we take that time, as Barbara said yesterday, she was taking that time. When we take that time to go inward and to connect through our spiritual practice. And yes, again and again, that imposter doubt creeps in. The imposter that says, I'm not good enough, I am separate, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm alone, I'm not enough. All of those things are imposter thoughts, right? However, the commonality with all of those thoughts that need to be rolled away is the I, where we're getting so self-absorbed in that I, we're not allowing the I am to come through. The I am consciousness. We get wrapped up in that I, and we're void of Spirit's direction, and that causes suffering. That's what causes suffering, that sense of separation. So I have the blessing of leaving today to go for a week to Portland for spiritual renewal with some of my others, with my teacher and some other mates. And my teacher shared the other day, because we do Zoom calls, and she shared the other day that we are made work, or the teaching that came through, we're made work with that word I, that little I, as in the individual I, because the individual being separate from God has become a religion. Religion has become that means of speaking, to separation from God. It's a falsehood that we cling to, and like I said, the cause of human suffering. Now, Jesus ended that conversation, that separation idea. It was radical. It was against a way of life and a way of thinking in his time. Forgive, love your neighbors as yourself. Love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. So he rolled away that stone of the appearance of death and destruction. The appearance of death and destruction. So, in the literal sense, think about it. Imagine yourself today. If you heard about a man who raised a person from the dead, would you believe it? Would you think how absurd? Would you feel threatened? Would you think he was a charlatan or an imposter? Or would you think he was the promised Messiah? Would you drop everything and follow him? So I hope that when the voice of Spirit within you speaks, that you would follow. I hope that I also would follow that inner light that leads me through these dark times of the human condition, the human experience. Again, here's another quote from Richard Rohr from the Universal Christ book. Christ is the light that allows people to see things in their fullness. The precise and intended effect of such light is to see Christ everywhere else. A mature Christian sees Christ in everything and everyone else. And that is the definition that will never fail you, always demand more of you, and give you no reason to fight or exclude or reject anyone, unquote. Now, when we follow this light, we awaken and embody this light to share it. We're meant to share it. Charles Fillmore also said this: through resurrection, man becomes an inhabitant here and now of a new heaven and a new earth. A new heaven in mind, a new earth in body, or the physical realm. That when we go through this resurrection experience, that is how our life and conditions shift. So when you find yourself in this cave, in this dark cave or tomb, let's embrace it and allow that unfolding wisdom and understanding to reveal itself. I have shared this before, and it's worth sharing again. This acronym, RISE, R-I-S-E. The R is to rise up, look to higher understanding, to turn away from what negative meaning our mind has given the condition or experience, to rise up to that wisdom. And I is, think infinite, I infinite, or I inward. So keep our focus on the infinite. Turn inward, turn away from the outer appearance, because it's an old outpicturing of yesterday's creation. We can only heal, restore in the now moment. The S is to suspend judgment. Not make it wrong or bad when we're in the tomb, but to think of the tomb as that birthing canal. We're moving from one ongoing experience of life to another. Now that might be your Garden of Gethsemane moment, where we have to surrender our personal will to the divine so that we can move through those feelings of fear, anger, doubt, so that we can express our purpose, which is to be here and to be the expressions of love and light. So always suspend judgment, if we can, on our experience. And E, expression. Remember that you are an expression of the Most High. Share the goodness that you are. Express that light, that divine love that is within you to others. Express yourself authentically and command authority over those appearances. We can still do that when we're in the middle of something that is unfolding, that isn't pleasant. That is how that one presence, one power is everywhere present in the middle of it all. So rise up to higher understanding. I, look to the infinite. E, remember you're an expression of the divine. And that acronym can help us move through the tomb into a new awareness and new consciousness. Now, I've been reading this week this book called The Lazarus Blueprint. Ancient Secrets for Healing and Inner Peace by Mary Alice and Richard Jafala. They're Unity writers, ministers. And in this book, they talk about the story of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead and the steps in consciousness, how we can use that also to see how to heal and have inner peace, and to look at it not so much as a literal story, but to look at how it is in our consciousness. Now, one of the things they say about the stone in rolling it away, because actually Jesus was away when they said, hey, Mary and Martha sent a message, come, our brother, your friend, is fatally ill. And he didn't come. He waited a couple of days before he returned to Bethany. And then they were mad at him because he didn't come right away when Lazarus had died. So, but when he came, he said, roll away the stone. And they're like, but it stinks in there. It's really awful. Roll away the stone. And that's when he said, Lazarus, come forth. Now, that particular story, that particular experience is really the biggie that got Jesus into trouble, right? That's a huge miracle. So anyway, the stone itself is not an external condition. It isn't a person in your life. It's not an external condition. The stone is it could be a very strong belief or attitude or habit or memory that chokes off the life inside of you, okay? That chokes off the life force and prevents you from living the full expression of your divinity. It's often an unforgiveness that has been lying dormant, and it keeps your spiritual resources in the shadows. It not only affects our mind, but that affects our bodies. Stress. It affects our bodies. It affects our relationships with each other. So I hope that you don't want to stay in that tomb with a stone covering the entryway. And so we would want to move it away. Look for some light, some understanding. And so they say, if you don't know what your stone is, first look consciously at, what's obvious. What may be obviously there that you're upset about. Then also there are some other things, some hidden resentments to look at. I'm just going to go to the page here where they say it's your turn. The story has Jesus approaching the tomb of Lazarus, filled with unshakable trust that something extremely powerful would take place. He knew nothing could happen until that great stone, sealing the opening of the cave and standing between him and Lazarus, has first moved out of the way. Right now, something huge may be standing between you, your good health, between you and a loving relationship, or between you and your inner peace and joy. Nothing can happen until you move that roadblock out of the way. And now it's your turn to say, take away the stone. So before we do we're going to do an interactive reading, but I'd like to take a little time to meditate on this. Just think about it right now. Just access your inner light and awareness. Let your mind sink into the heart. And see if there's any stone that has been in your way that you can say, roll it away. Take away the stone. Just to pause for a moment for an inner reflection on that. We don't take it away with great resistance. We just allow it. Allow it to be moved. With the guidance of that inner light. Making space for the divine nature, divine love, divine wisdom, divine light to fill you. For you to be full of that awareness. So that all the dark places are filled, enlightened. Feel yourself being enlivened by the release of that stone, or if there's more than one, see yourself walking out of that cave. Enlivened by spirit and feeling the fullness of your divine nature. And so it is. Take a deep breath. Now, my friend Claudette Carawan wrote an Easter song some years ago. It still hasn't been like published, but she has allowed choirs to sing it. She's given me permission to share it wherever I can when I've been asked to do something regarding Easter. And I think her song says it all. And I'm just going to share that, and then we'll close out with a responsive reading. It's called Rise Up, but to me it also is Roll Away the Stone. Let me see what key to start in. Rise up into this moment. Rise up and greet the day. Rise up, fully awakened. Roll away the stone. Roll away the stone. Rise up, freedom is calling. Rise up and shine your light. Rise up, the chains have been broken. Roll away the stone. You can sing that part with me. Roll away the stone. Come on, rise up. Rise up in celebration. Rise up. It's a brand new day. Rise up in liberation. Rise up, rise up. Rise up in celebration. Rise up. It's a brand new day. Rise up in jubilation. Rise up, rise up. All right, one more verse. Rise up. The tomb has been conquered. The tomb has been conquered. Rise up. There's nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. Rise up. This is your moment. Rise up. This is your moment. Roll away the stone. And again, with harmony. Roll away the stone. Here Here we go. Rise up in celebration, rise up. It's a brand new day. Rise up in liberation, rise up, rise up. Rise up in celebration, rise up. It's a brand new day. Rise up in jubilation, rise up, rise up. Nice, 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 nice. All right. I've asked Barbara to be a part of our interactive reading, and so I will do the part. Sorry, you're going to have to chase me with the camera now. I'm going to do a part, and then Barbara's going to lead the congregation in doing the response. So it's kind of like call response. So here we go. Every human being is on a journey of developing good, of awakening to oneness. Jesus said, I and the Father are one. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. How we awaken to the divine is less important than the truth that we do.
And together, we are assured that when we desire with all our hearts to awaken, we shall surely find God within.
The life of each of us is part of the larger life of God.
And together, I am the vine and the branches, said Jesus.
It is in us that the life of God comes into manifestation.
And together, the closer we live to God, the more beautiful and radiant our own lives, and the more glorious life becomes for us.
All right, so here is our last affirmation together. I am free from limiting thoughts and beliefs. I am transformed and renewed by the power of the living Christ within me and all. Thank you. Amen to that. Now, another minister friend of mine, to close, said this: Jesus lived his life as a demonstration of what is possible when we are connected to our divine self and in the flow of good that is God. He denied that there is any separation, and he made that way of living life available to all people. Today is the acknowledgement and the celebration of a way of living that Jesus made available to each of us. Today, we proclaim our Christ nature, that is the truth of our being, and we deny any undesirable traits and center our consciousness on the perfect spirit within. Together, we are lifted up in our conscious awareness through the example that Jesus gave of living life. And so it is.